Well, thank you, Chairman Bono Mack, for your swift action, frankly, in bringing the National Manufacturing Competitiveness Act of 2012 to markup. I want to thank my Illinois colleague, Mr. Lipinski, for his sponsorship of the legislation and his work on behalf of manufacturing and American competitiveness. And I also want to thank the countless number of staff who worked very hard to find the right bipartisan tone in this piece of legislation. Tomorrow, I'll offer an amendment in the nature of a substitute that will incorporate these bipartisan changes that were made from members of this committee. I want to thank Mr. Butterfield and his staff, along with Mr. McKinley, Mr. Guthrie, and Mr. Pompeo, for the suggestions they have offered to make this bill even better. In the last 2 decades, we've seen a steady decline in America's share of global manufacturing activity. This is due in part to increased competitiveness from emerging economies. It's also the lack of a coherent policy that would foster a competitive environment for manufacturers. This bill would build consensus between the executive and legislative branches in formulating policies that will create this competitive environment. Through the creation of the American Manufacturing Competitiveness Board, a manufacturing strategy will be developed for approval by the President and by Congress. The board will consist of 5 members of the public sector and 10 members of the private sector, a very important piece of this. The Secretary of Commerce will co-chair the board along with the member of the private sector. The board will create a strategy to promote growth, sustainability, and competitiveness in the nation's manufacturing sector to create well-paid, stable jobs, enable innovation and investment, and, just as importantly, support national security. The President will be required to submit the strategy to Congress no later than June 1st of the second year of the President's term, and the board will terminate 60 days after the strategy is submitted to Congress. This strategy will build upon the work of government and non-governmental organizations to build consensus on actions that should be taken by the President and Congress to support manufacturing competitiveness in the United States. We're on the verge of a new manufacturing renaissance in this country. Let's ensure we're doing everything to maintain that throughout the 21st century. Again, I thank the chairman for bringing this up, and I yield back.